So for today, I just want to remind you that, what we're doing, and I haven't posted this on Google Classroom yet, but I will here in a second. Uh, we are working on our pencil grid drawing, which is, setting up a 1-inch grid on a piece of paper and using the griddrawingnow.com website to upload your picture and put a grid that matches your drawing paper and being able to draw from that. So I just want to go over a couple of things as far as shading, as far as, I had the question of how do I put a grid on my paper if I don't have a ruler? So I just wanted to go over those things. So this is a set of notes that we took a while back, talking about value and, pretty much what you're doing when you are shading something in with pencil. You are looking at the different gray levels that are on that picture. So, if you kind of look at a value scale, going from super light all the way to super dark and all the values in between, all you're trying to do is look at the picture and match the level of grayness, whatever you see on your picture, onto your drawing paper. I don't know if you remember this, but we had practiced on a couple of different shapes. And I just wanted to remind you and show you some things that hopefully will help you as you shade. So, all of us, we're at home. So I'm assuming that what you have available is a regular pencil, maybe a mechanical pencil, to shade. I went and got this Q-tip because I figured a lot of us might have Q-tips available, or maybe like a Kleenex, paper towel, just something to kind of blend your pencil after you shade. But one of the main things I wanted to talk about is, when you're trying to shade big areas, let's say I'm just gonna draw like this guy. Oh, and I know it might be kind of hard to see because it is like super light. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about was, when you're trying to shade big areas, you really need to practice. And I know it's been a while since we've shaded with pencil, but instead of using the point of the pencil to shade, let's see if I can zoom in a little. Focus. There it is. Instead of using the point of the pencil, try to lay the pencil down to where you are using the entire side. And what you want to do is, a little at a time, you want to build up your picture. So especially, this technique works great when you are trying to build big or fill big areas, okay? So practice, in a minute when we start working on our warm-up, the reason I chose a warm-up that we're starting today, so you can practice with your shading, okay? So the other thing that I want to say is, if you have a regular pencil and a mechanical pencil, the mechanical pencil is good for doing like really thin, sharp lines. So the mechanical pencil might be used more towards the end of the drawing, once you have like most of the shading done and you're coming in and doing like the detail work. So that's one of the ways I use a mechanical pencil. Wherever I need a super fine, dark, thin line, and that's when I will use a mechanical pencil. Eyelashes, are great. If anyone's drawing a person, great with mechanical pencil. Sometimes depending on the type of hair you're drawing, if anyone's drawing hair or an animal, a mechanical pencil might work great. So usually when I shade, I can tell you, I've told you this before, but just a reminder, usually when I shade, I like to start with a middle gray tone. Not super dark, not super light, just a regular old little bit of pressure, not too much pressure, gray tone to begin with, right? And then once I have that, I will take my tool to blend. Like I said, you can use Q-tips are great. I know most of us might have Q-tips at our house, or if you have a Kleenex, and that will give you a base to start with. right? A nice light gray to start with instead of having the white of the paper. And then from here, you can look at your picture and say, okay, so what's the dark areas? And then let's say I have a little dark area. And I'm just doing this quick, right? Just to give you an idea of how maybe you could shade something in. And then let's say you have a highlight here, then you can take your eraser and take that highlight out. And then maybe you need to do some detail work. You can come in with your mechanical pencil. And put some of that detail in. But usually that's how, you know, I work my shading. Starting with the light gray, come in darken tones, erase whites out, and then just a little at a time build it up, okay? All right, so that's just a reminder on a quick recap on shading. You know, like I said, a lot of us are like, what the heck, man? I'm not that good at this. But all it is it's practice, just using your tools, using your pencils, and it's practice. That's all it is. All right, now, for those of us that are making a grid and do not have a ruler, just a reminder, this is what I said you need. You're drawing a grid on this paper. You have no ruler. So what you need is an extra piece of paper. And then, I think I'm gonna use just a marker to mark this. Like I said, you want to give yourself a reference mark on your scratch piece of paper about 1 inch. And like I said, usually a good reference is your pointer finger, this first joint right here to the first little line, the first joint, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line that up with the edge of my paper. And right about where my first joint is, give myself a little mark. And then somewhere near the top, line it up with the edge of the paper and give myself a reference mark. And then just what I will do is every time I mark, I will slide it over and mark it. And I will do that until I get all the way across the paper. And that's how I would make a grid without a ruler. Now the second thing you would need to finish off the grid is you would need some sort of straight edge. If you happen to have like a clipboard, a book that's long enough to cover the length of your paper, a binder works great as a straight edge, then you can use those things to help you. And I'm just gonna do a couple of these lines, but the thing is, you would just complete all the way to the end of the paper. So I'm just doing a couple just as an example. But this is how you would create a grid if you do not have a ruler. And what I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use a binder. You know, here's a nice little binder. So what I would do is I would line up the edge of the binder with my reference marks. And create my lines. And that is how you would create a grid if you do not have a ruler, okay? You know, 1 year, I even had a girl, well, 1 year, it was last year after we had to stay home from COVID. She went into her kitchen and she was using a cutting board as her straight edge. So like whatever you have that's available, use it. But this is what method you would follow. And just a reminder that if anyone missed, and I know I do have a new student today, if anyone has missed the last class, or like what the heck are we doing? We are working on drawing a picture of your choice. So we're using a 1-inch grid, and then there's a website that I put on last class Google Classroom that you can click on. You can upload a picture and then put a grid on it, save it, and then you would have a picture that matches this for your drawing. But yeah, those are the things I wanted to share with you, and I will post this video on Google Classroom.